No.
I mean, how's Samsung doing?
Stacey Raskin, who is I think the sort of the
very good, terrible dresser.
Yeah. Terrible. Okay. ASML is not necessarily the best read across to the rest of the semi-cap space, given their focused expertise and lumpy revenue profile. Obviously, he also goes on to say Nvidia, Broadcom, AMD all broadly sold off in a move that's potentially overdone.
Thank you. Look, he's good. I guess he's owned by no one. Look, I think Chuck has done a great job. If we dig in the archives, you'll see a picture of Chuck walking with Jensen. And you know what that means. Upside.
This video discusses the current state and future outlook of the semiconductor industry, focusing on Nvidia's continued growth and competitive edge. Speakers note Nvidia's strategic investments in AI and enterprise solutions, which have given it a significant advantage in the rapidly expanding tech market. Despite recent pullbacks in semiconductor stocks, Nvidia remains strong due to its role in advancing data centers, power grids, and other infrastructure driven by its AI expertise. Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang emphasizes the company's commitment to superhuman productivity through innovation, even as the sector faces cyclical challenges. Additionally, the video highlights Nvidia's collaborations with major players, such as Accenture, to optimize AI-driven systems across industries. With AI demand projected to rise, the discussion suggests Nvidia may approach Apple's market cap as it capitalizes on this generational opportunity. The conversation also addresses the semiconductor industry's cyclical nature, with speakers predicting sustained growth in the near term, followed by a possible refresh cycle around 2026.
Now, you're making the key point here, which is everything but AI was weaker at ASML, but AI was strong, and yet Nvidia and AMD, amongst others, were down sharply.
Yeah, and it was just kind of wrong. I mean, things, people got it wrong. Now, I want to tell you, just as they were blowing up, and when I say blow up, I mean not since, I don't know, since they gave away Manhattan. What, for like 27 shekels? What was that they gave away? The Dutch?
$22.
Yeah, right?
I believe. Peter Stuyvesant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great man. Holland Tunnel. But
that was Holland.
I know, that's actually, it's related to my family. But right when ASMLF, was the reaction was going, putting Nvidia in its place, so to speak, Jensen Huang was speaking right then. And his quote is, "We would like to achieve superhuman productivity." This is at a Lenovo Smarter AI Enterprise Conference. And I thought it ironic that here he's busy taking over the world, but he's also being taken down by ASMLF. I mean, I don't know.
Upside, is that what that means? Yeah. Jensen is everywhere.
He is.
Is there anyone he won't speak to?
Well, when I asked him, I said, "Aren't you too many places? Is it hard? Is it this or is that?" He said, "I'm not an actor."
What does that mean?
Because he's living what he does. He gets up at 4 a.m., he works for 4 hours, and then he goes in and meets people and find out what to do, and he goes find out what's the best stuff to do. And this super AI thing he was talking about yesterday was brilliant. At the Lenovo speech that he gave, it was brilliant.
Right. But, I mean, the day before that, the podcast, this podcast, that one, he showed up at the NASDAQ. He's there next to Becky.
Speaking of expectations, which are not really low, and that's NVIDIA. The price target today gets raised to 190. At B of A, it was 165. Generational opportunity is how they call it, because of the competitive lead that they have now. They talk about recent industry events. They talk about the underappreciated enterprise partnerships and software offerings, and the ability to generate $200 billion in free cash flow over the next couple of years. You want to address this? It's been a reasonably volatile week. ASML hurt. Taiwan Semi helped. Pick your story on whatever side of the ledger you want to be on as it relates to that. But they are now neck and neck. Apple and Nvidia are in terms of what their overall market caps are. Apple's still the biggest, but Nvidia is right on its heels. As of the close yesterday, we're looking at 3.36 for Nvidia, 3.53. For Apple, those are skewed a little bit to the upside on both accounts today. There's 3.60 trillion for Apple, 3.38 trillion for Nvidia, but it's getting there, and people think it's going to because of the generational opportunity that some suggest they still have.
Yeah, and I thought it was super interesting, like the ASML report, which was concerning. You saw a lot of the semis pulling back as a result. And then you see Taiwan Semi, their print, which was a blowout print, and then all the numbers start to push right back. I think about one of the things that Steph said earlier, when you think about just all the beltways that lead back to NVIDIA. If I think about the power grid as an example in data centers, all the build and all the raids we're talking about with data centers and how much we need to build, where we need to find land for these places, all that goes into chips, right? The chips are what fuel the data centers, and beltways all the way back to NVIDIA. So when I think about free cash flow going forward and all the opportunities and all the catalysts, it's hard to fight this stock. It's hard to fight and say, wait, you know what? It's gone up too much. 180% is too much, or whatever. It's still a great opportunity.
People tried to fight Apple. They've lost. Right? They've been put on the canvas.
All right, we start with Nvidia. Why not? Which is trading higher on a bullish call. B of A Securities raising its price target on the tech giant to $190 from $165, reiterating its buy rating. The firm calling Nvidia a, quote, generational opportunity with a huge competitive advantage in a growing market. The stock already up nearly 180% just this year. And that's after last year, where it's something like tripled. Now, here's the analyst behind that call, Vivek Arya. Vivek, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I guess the question in reply to the idea, I have no question that NVIDIA is going to be a great company for a long time to come. But it has already had that generational moment, it would seem to me. So how do you see it moving multiples higher from here, generationally, I suppose?
Sure. So what I think AI is telling us is that it is not just good enough to be a chip maker, right? That you need to make sure that you can scale these chips across a system, that you have software that can be optimized to deliver the best computational performance, that you're taking care of all the energy, right, and the power requirements, that you're working at scale with the supply chain in Asia. And then importantly, that you're working with an enterprise ecosystem. A few days ago, we saw NVIDIA signing the relationship with Accenture, who will train thousands of people to go and deploy NVIDIA-based systems. So I think it takes that end-to-end knowledge, and only one company today is able to deliver that. And this is not something you overcome in a day or a year or 2 or 3 years, because NVIDIA has been investing in this kind of silicon and software right from the days when they were just a gaming company. Their core operating system called CUDA came out over a dozen years ago. So that's the kind of advantage and lead that they have built, both in terms of their early investments in software, and today their scale and incumbency and partnerships with a number of these enterprise software companies and consulting companies.
I just wonder, sort of a last question, Vivek, if the company is inherently cyclical, and if there's been any kind of pull forward in demand just to make sure that people have what they need, are we going to look to the other side of that? And I don't know if that's in 3 or 6 months' time or maybe beyond that window, but a lot of people who are bullish say they literally don't think it's going to be a cyclical business like many of semiconductors have been through time.
No, I think every time, we forget that semiconductors are a cyclical industry, they have a way of rudely reminding us that it is a cyclical industry. Usually these cycles tend to last for 4 years, where the time to make money is the first 3 years. So last year we had a very strong year. This year is a very strong year. We think next year can be a very good year. And then the cycle potentially rolls over in 2026, right? But I think it's only to refresh and then get on to the next technology trend. So we do think there is at least about a year's worth of investment left in this upfront infrastructure deployment that semiconductors are such a critical part of.
All right, Vivek, thanks for joining us, making the bullish and generational case for, or at least the case until 2026 for NVIDIA.
Suddenly, I mean, the man is everywhere.
David, you're falling prey.
Is there a simulation of him?
But he doesn't realize this is the agent Jensen.
Does Jensen have like 3 Jensens?
Let me get Mike Connie on the phone, because he's very good on the agent
Who?
thing. Chuck likes the Falcons. Falcons do look good. Ford too.
Yes, Falcons look good.
And I've got
Nvidia will look for some potential all-time highs. B of A does go to 190
there
today.
keeps being these sellers at 140, and they just won't relent. And they ought to go rethink their whole game plan. They should go read the conference call of Taiwan Semi, and they would know that it's foolish to sell. Druckenmiller with a cry in the beer about wishes that he hadn't sold it. I don't get the sell call here.
Yeah.
Because this is, remember, one of the things that was mentioned by Dr. Wei on the Taiwan Semi was he's saying it's incredibly early. And yet people are selling NVIDIA. It's incredibly early? And I remember talking to Jensen. I mean, we were like 3 trillion, 4 trillion. He's not thinking about that. What he's thinking about is creating robots that are going to deliver you inexpensive coffee from maybe even Starbucks with Brian Nichol there.
And we mentioned the Melius chart today, looking at OpenAI's new product, where Ben Reitzes says that as inference moves to video and reason, it's going to prompt infrastructure upgrades pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and I was going back and forth with Ben. He's pure joy. It reminds me that it's very, very bullish for Nvidia, and also he says for Lisa, for AMD. And I totally agree with Ben. Ben's got a beat on a lot of things. And the companies really respect Ben's work, just so you know. And I'm not just partial to Ben because I like his father, who's a great chemical analyst. I'm partial because he's must read. And he's distinguished himself in the group by having the most cogent recommendations, and he's quick. It reminds me of Katie Huberty when she was doing her Apple work, and that's like about as high praise as I can get. Because Katie Huberty was a deity, and now she does the charts. She's a deity, and Ben, I think, wants deity status. Got to work. Got to work hard to be deity.
In conclusion, Nvidia's strategic investments in AI and partnerships with enterprises, like Accenture, position it as a leader in the evolving tech landscape. Despite the cyclical nature of the semiconductor industry, Nvidia's end-to-end approach in software, hardware, and enterprise solutions sets it apart. As AI applications expand, Nvidia's role in supporting data centers and power grids further secures its influence and potential to challenge major competitors in market capitalization. With predictions of continued growth into 2026, Nvidia represents a generational opportunity, according to analysts, who believe it could reshape the semiconductor industry. The company's focus on productivity and infrastructure upgrades aligns well with the growing demand for AI and data-driven solutions, suggesting that Nvidia may remain resilient in the face of market shift. Do you think Nvidia's focus on AI and enterprise solutions will continue to give it a competitive edge in the long run? How do you view the cyclical nature of the semiconductor industry affecting Nvidia's future growth?